بسم آب و ولد و منفس قدوس أحد واملك آمين. بسم آب و ولد و منفس قدوس أحد واملك آمين. بسم آب و ولد و منفس قدوس أحد واملك آمين. Yeah, good morning, blessings and love. Um, yeah, I got this hoodie on again. Sometimes I feel like, am I wearing the same thing over and over again? But it's not a fashion show, so I don't mind. But you can see I've got my layers on. It's cold here this morning. Just walked the dog, and my eyes were icy. My hands were icy. But yeah, I do remember when Facebook first came out, and a young person I was working with, she's like, oh yeah, Facebook exposes your wardrobe, and she's changing clothes every time she's going out because she don't want to be seen in the same clothes. Well, I'm going to be doing this trod for a long time, like 4 years plus. So if you see me in my same house clothes each morning, then so be it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, there's no doubt though that these things can make you self-conscious, but this is more important than reading, so pushing through any of that kind of noise and nonsense really. But anyway, enough with the preamble and on with the reading. Give thanks. And there goes a man of the house of Levi, and he takes the daughter of Levi, and the woman conceives and bears a son. And she sees him, and he is beautiful, and she hides him for 3 months, and she has not been able to hide him anymore. And she takes an ark of rushes for him, and covers it with bitumen and with pitch, and puts the boy in it, and puts it in the weeds by the edge of the river. And his sister stations herself far off to know what to do with him. And the daughter of Pharaoh comes down to bathe at the river, and her girls are walking by the side of the river, and she sees the ark in the midst of the weeds, and sends her handmaid, and she takes it, and opens, and sees him, the boy, and behold, a child is weeping. And she has pity on him, and says, this is one of the Hebrew children. And his sister says to the daughter of Pharaoh, do I go when I have called a suckling woman of the Hebrews for you? Then she suckles the boy for you. And the daughter of Pharaoh says to her, go. And the virgin goes and calls the mother of the boy. And the daughter of Pharaoh says to her, take this boy away and suckle him for me, and I give you your hire. And the woman takes the boy and suckles him, and the boy grows, and she brings him to the daughter of Pharaoh, and he is to her for a son. And she calls his name Moses, and says, because I have drawn him from the water. And it comes to pass in those days that Moses is grown, and he goes out to his brothers, and looks on their burdens, and sees a man, an Egyptian, striking a man, a Hebrew, one of his brothers. And he turns here and there, and sees that there is no man, and strikes the Egyptian, and hides him in the sand. And he goes out on the second day, and behold, 2 men, Hebrews, are striving. And he says to the wrongdoer, why do you strike your neighbor? And he says, who set you ahead and judge over us? Are you saying it to slay me, as you have slain the Egyptian? And Moses fears and says, surely this thing has been known. And Pharaoh hears of this thing, and sees to slay Moses. And Moses flees from the face of Pharaoh, and dwells in the land of Midian, and dwells by the well. And to a priest of Midian are 7 daughters, and they come and draw, and they fill the troughs to water, and they flock of their father. And the shepherds come and drive them away. And Moses arises and saves them, and waters their flock. And they come from their father Reuel. And he says, why have you hurried to come in today? And they say, a man, an Egyptian, has delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and he also diligently drawn for us, and waters the flock. And he says to his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that you have left this man? Call for him, and he eats bread. And Moses is willing to dwell with the man, and he gives his daughter Zipporah to Moses, and she bears a son, and he calls his name Gershom, and for he said, I have been a sojourner in a strange land, and it comes to pass during these many days that the king of Egypt dies, and the sons of Israel sigh because of the service and cry, and their cry goes up to God because of the service. And God hears their groaning, and God remembers his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and with Jacob. And God sees the sons of Israel, and God knows. For this few words I give thanks. Blessed love. So yeah, that's quite a short chapter, but there's a lot in there. At the beginning, we hear of a man from the house of Levi, sleeps with a woman, and the woman has a baby, and the woman hides the baby in the river because remember, Pharaoh has put a edict out to kill every son that's born of the Hebrews. So she hides him for 3 months. She can no longer hide him. So she then casts him adrift, basically abandons him on the side of the river. But the sister of that baby is keeping watch to make sure that he's safe. And the daughter of Pharaoh comes up. She's taken a bathe. She finds the baby. The daughter comes and says, I know someone who might be able to look after this baby because she's not long had a baby herself. And that woman that the sister gets is her own mother, who's the mother of the baby. And that mother then works for the daughter of Pharaoh to look after the child. And that child is adopted by the daughter of Pharaoh. And the daughter of Pharaoh calls that child Moses. And obviously, not obviously, I don't like the word obviously, but we do recognize that name Moses of who that is. Um, so Moses grows up. He knows he's Hebrew. He sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, and he kills that Egyptian and buries him in the sand. And then the next day, he sees two Hebrews arguing, and he tries to intervene and says, Keep the peace. And then those Hebrews say, Who are you to judge over us? Are you going to kill us like you did the Egyptian? So then, as it says here, Moses then realizes that people know he killed the Egyptians. He runs away in fear, and Pharaoh hears this and says he's going to kill Moses. So Moses runs away. He goes to a village, meets this man and meets their daughters. He ends up marrying one of the daughters. He has a child with one of the daughters. And in that time, the Pharaoh has died, but the Hebrews they're still enslaved. We don't know how long this spans. This short chapter spans maybe 20, 30 years. I'm not sure how old Moses was when he got married, but it says then the Hebrews, because they're still enslaved, they're praying to God for their deliverance. And then by the end of the chapter, God has heard their plea. And it actually says God remembers his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And God sees the sons of Israel, and God knows. So they've reminded God, and it actually admits here that God remembers. So there's a huge amount going on in this chapter, and it's a bit like some chapters in Genesis where one sentence says this, and another sentence is like, something completely different. So yeah, huge, huge, huge. Um, and I'm not sure what more to say on it because the storytelling, even though it's extremely compacted, is setting the scene for Moses. It's setting the scene for Exodus and the big story that many of us know that Moses has in terms of the importance he has on the people of Israel. And the Ten Commandments, parting of the Red Sea, all of these stories are in Exodus. So this really tight scene, this really tight chapter, is setting Moses up that he's a person of significance. So I guess in terms of interpretation, he's a Hebrew, but he hasn't forgotten his roots. So when he grows up, he still knows he's of Hebrew people, even though he grew up in the Pharaoh's court as the daughter of Pharaoh. So that's one thing. He's a man of integrity. He's a man of bravery and justice, where he intervened when he saw an Egyptian being beaten. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. So he steps in and actually kills the Egyptian. So he's extremely strong, he's extremely brave, but also he's not afraid of a fight. Um, killing is never to be condoned, but we see that he's got that in his character. We see the next day he's trying to intervene in the Hebrews, so again he's a man of justice, but also he's a man of humbleness when he realizes that that it's out that he killed an Egyptian. He runs away fearing for his life. So he's also someone who has vulnerability and knows when that he might be outmatched by the Pharaoh. But when he goes to that next village, he helps them with their flock and their sheep. So that's how he takes notice of the daughters and the I can't remember the name of the man who owns the flock. So he's a man of kindness, and then he's invited into that house, and he ends up marrying one of the daughters, and so it goes on. So in a very short time, is painting quite a clear picture of Moses, that he is a man of integrity, but he's also a fierce man of extreme strength, and he will defend justice when he sees an injustice. So yeah, a lot going on, but I'm going to be probably as to the point as to the chapter, and I'll end it there because there's probably so much to say, but also not much more to say. So give thanks, blessed love, and God willing, be back for more tomorrow. One love.